Welcome back to Just Scribble for an update on my work planner setup. So if you saw my work planner setup video for the beginning of the year, then you know that I am using the Papertess B5 Manager's notebook for my work planner for 2025, or that's what I've been using for the first quarter, so January, February, March of 2025. And I paired that with a notebook from her, so it's a little booklet for the first quarter of 2025. And although this planner is really, really nice and has a lot of great features, it's not working, or it wasn't working out for me as well as I had really hoped for work, and it really wasn't what I needed. In some ways, this is too much planner, and in some ways, it's not enough planner. So I wanted to do an update video to kind of update you on my work planner system, because I have moved out of this and since tried a couple other things and landed on something different, and that's what I'm going to be using for work for quarter two, and I think through the rest of the year, because I think it's going to work out really, really well. But I wanted to do a video to talk to you guys about the changes that I was making. And then I think I'm going to do a couple other videos that are kind of connected to this. So I want to do a video sort of reviewing this planner and what I liked and what I didn't like about it, what I would want done differently if I was using this planner, like the things that I wish were different about it. And then also a video or two on the setups that I used in between what I'm using now, or what I've landed on, and this B5 Manager's notebook. So I'm going to have a couple of videos, one of which going in depth on this planner as a sort of review of this planner, and then some setup. But in this particular video, we're going to talk about kind of an overview of what was working and what wasn't working and why. So I do have a detailed setup video for this planner of how I had it set up and how I intended on using this planner. And I can't do a real flip through of this planner because it has a lot of confidential work information in it, and so I really can't flip through and show you guys the weekly pages and how I've used the weekly pages. I do have some photos on Instagram that are taken in a way that you can't see the confidential information, or are before I wrote in any confidential information. And so I do have those over on Instagram, so you guys can check those out. But I did use the monthly very functionally, so all of my plans went into here. The sidebar was used to keep track of things that needed to get done during the month. The dashboard was a place where I kept track of what I was actually doing during the month. So this was sort of a pre-plan list, and this was, actively in this month what I was doing. And then the weeklies were for my schedule, what I got done during the day, what I needed to do during the week, notes for what I needed to do next week, etc. And then I used the little booklet for dailies and notes and things like that, because there wasn't space for that in here. And what I was discovering was a few things. I really love a vertical layout. I love being able to see my week at a glance. It kind of goes into my head as a sort of picture, and so I can see when I'm busy and when I'm not busy, when I have meetings that I need to go to, when I don't have meetings that I need to go to. But at the same time, that's not really what I need in my work planner, because I also have all of that digitally, because we do have, digital calendars where all of our meetings and appointments and things like that go. But my actual real functional needs for my work planner really lives in to-do lists and notes. Notes from phone calls, notes from meetings, notes from projects, things like that. And so as much as I really like the weekly page, it wasn't as functional as I wanted it to be, because the space I had to keep track of daily to-dos wasn't big enough. And for meeting notes and project notes, I was having to flip to this out of this. And so I was kind of going back and forth between keeping track of what I was doing here and then keeping track of what I was doing here. And then also I found that when I was getting phone calls and things like that, I wasn't grabbing this to write in. I was grabbing whatever was closest to me at the time to take notes from calls and also in meetings. And so I was just picking up whatever spiral notebook I had on my desk or whatever sticky notes I had on my desk. And I ended up with just a whole bunch of stuff. I had notes and lists kind of everywhere. I had stuff in here, I had stuff in here, I had stuff in random notebooks on my desk, I had stuff on post-it notes all over my desk, and I felt very overwhelmed with all of the things that I had to do with my job. I am in upper management in a multinational company. I have a lot of responsibilities and areas of focus, a lot of projects that I manage, a lot of people on my team that I manage. And I was feeling very overwhelmed and sort of scattered because I had things in all these different places. I didn't feel like I had a really good handle of all of my to-dos for that day, for that week, for that month. And so although there were places in here to do all that stuff, it was kind of in a lot of different places. I had this here that I was supposed to check to make sure that I had gotten things done. I had my to-do list here on my sidebar. I had what I actually got done during the week. I had my notes on in here. I had my post-it notes. I had my spiral notebooks. I just had like a lot of stuff, and none of it was actually getting me where I needed to be. I think a lot of that was because this planner, like I said, was too much planner and not enough planner kind of all at the same time. So I decided that for April, I would set this to the side and not use it, which is why the April is basically blank, and I would try something different. And so the first thing that I thought of was moving to rings. And the reason being is that I thought then everything could kind of be contained in one thing. I really love my A6 rings for my EDC, and so I kind of have found a love for rings, where before in the past I've not been a rings planner person. But I was like, well, I love A6 rings for my EDC, so maybe I would really like rings for my work planner. And so I thought, well, if I had my monthly and then I had maybe a 2-page daily, so a place for me to put my schedule for the day, a place for me to put my to-dos for the day, a place for notes, and then I also had other sections for other notes, maybe I could do everything in a ring planner. And so the first thing that I did, because I had a coupon, was I actually bought ring planner inserts from Franklin Covey. And I do have a video kind of talking a little bit about this, because these are Franklin Covey classic size. And I ordered them because I had a coupon and I thought they might be a really good fit. And when they came, I realized they have a different hole configuration than A5 rings, and so I couldn't use them in my A5 ring planner. So I looked around for a Franklin Covey classic option that I liked, didn't find anything, and so I made my own. And so I have a DIY video on how to make your own Franklin Covey classic binder with some rings and a Moterm half letter disc bound cover. And I made this cover and I really like it. I have a big back pocket where letter size and legal size papers fit. So if I needed to bring papers to a meeting or I received papers in a meeting, I had it. I had pockets that I could use for deco or task cards, whatever. I had the guts of my planner. I had a pen loop. I thought this would be really, really perfect. I bought some Avery tabs or dividers. Therefore, they're like junior or mini binder size, and they have the same hole configuration as Franklin Covey Classic. And so I set this up, and I had a section at the front with the dashboard that came with my rings, and I bought the Her Point of View Franklin Covey Classic size inserts because they were already decorated, so they had color, so I wouldn't need to think about any sort of deco I wanted to go on the page, and I could use color for my highlighters and things like that. And I set this up, and I'm going to go through the setup in a different video for these ring planners, but basically I have the monthlies, which had an index at the front, your monthly on 2 pages. It was a Sunday start, which isn't my thing, but I drew lines to kind of differentiate, and because I'm used to having a sidebar over here, my mind naturally saw this as Monday's column anyways, and so I had Monday through Friday there for all of my plans. And then on the back of the monthly, you have a master task list. So I thought, oh, this is great. I have a place for an inbox. I have a place for my task list for the month. And then I had the daily pages that look like this. So I had a place for my to-do list for the day, a place for my schedule for the day, and a place for notes over here. And then at the beginning of your daily pages, you have another index. So you have a place that you can do a sort of index to reference important things. So that way, if I needed to come back and look at something, I could actually reference that. And it seemed like it would be a really good fit. And then I had a place back in the back for note paper, for notes, phone calls, all those kinds of things. And so I set this up and I used it and realized that I didn't really like it all that much. I didn't really feel at home, and I also felt a little bit limited because there's not a lot of Franklin Covey classic accessories that are easy to get. And so I don't know, I just didn't really love the setup. It was a really basic, simple setup, and I'm going to do a video sharing this setup in a little bit more detail, like exactly how I set it up, because it's super basic. And I think it could work for some people for the work planner. It just didn't really feel great. So then I thought, well, maybe it's because I'm using the Franklin Covey Classic size and I should just use A5 size, because I already have a bunch of printables in A5 size. I have ring planners in A5 size. And so I got my Moterm. This is pink quartz. It's beautiful. I think this color is beautiful, but it was the same thing. I had a back pocket for papers and I had already tabs that I could use. I already had inserts and free printables that I could use. And the only thing I really needed was like the monthly and daily guts. And I got a printable from Marcia Barmucci. I think that's how you say your name. I will link it down in the cards below. But she has this awesome monthly that is basically a work week monthly. So you have larger space for Monday through Friday, and then your weekends are combined. And for me, I don't generally need my weekends. I only need Monday through Friday. So I had a lot more space. It had lines, so it was easy to write on. And then she has dailies on 2 pages that are similar to the Franklin Covey Her Point of View, but with no color on them and a little bit more space than there is on those, because it's missing some of the deco, but also just because of the layout. So I had your timeline here. So my schedule was a little bit smaller. I had a larger space for a to-do list. I had a large space for kind of priorities for the day, and I had my large space for notes. And so comparing the two, you can see that I got more to-do list space here than on here because the timeline is smaller and the space of the page is wider. So an A5 is a little bit wider and a little bit shorter. And so it felt like more space here and then more space over here for notes. And then again, because I already had some inserts and things, I could set up other things that I thought I would need in my planner. So I had an inbox and I had some spaces for important dates and I had spaces for goals and some other things that I could add in here because I already had these printables. A lot of them are from my life plans, but I already had these printables. I already had accessories. And so I thought, okay, well, we'll try this because maybe this will be a little bit better because I have a little bit more functional space and maybe I'll feel a little more at home because I can really kind of customize it better because it's easier to find A5 accessories. And I already have A5 accessories. And so I used for actually part of March and part of April, I used these 2 systems. So one week I would test one, the other week I would test the other. I still had my Papertess B5 Manager off to the side, and I would kind of set it up at the beginning of the week just so that I kind of wouldn't lose focus in case this wasn't working. So since I was kind of pinging back and forth between things, but I used both of these and found that I do love this setup better. I like the layout a little bit better. I like the amount of functional space there is a little bit better. I still think that there could be more functional space if I got rid of this and I got rid of this section up here, but it was really pretty good. But I realized I don't really like rings for my work planner, and I was trying to figure out why, because rings, I like them for my EDC, so why do I not like them for this? And I came to the realization that it's because in my A6 rings, I kind of live in my weekly and or daily pages for the most part. I sometimes flip to my tracker section or my finance section or to my inbox, but that's a one-off thing when I need to add something or make a note or when I'm updating trackers like at the end of the day or updating finance stuff at the end of the day. It's not throughout the day and every time I use it. For the most part, I'm kind of living in the sort of functional daily/weekly space in the planner. In my work setup though, I'm flipping to the notes sections all the time. Anytime I have a phone call, anytime I have a meeting, anytime I need to make notes about a project that I'm working on. And this amount of space is great for my schedule and my to-do list, but this is not enough space for my daily notes. And so throughout the day, I'm going from here and flipping back to here, and then back to here, and flipping back to here, and back to here, and flipping back to here. And honestly, I don't like it. I don't like flipping back and forth and trying to figure out where I was at. I don't like having everything so disconnected. I don't like having the notes from that day that don't fit here, back here. And then I found I wasn't wanting to put notes here because I was having to go back here anyways. So it was like, well, why have them here? And if I only had a daily that was 1 page, then again, I'd be flipping back and forth all of the time. And I just really didn't like it. And so I realized that rings work for me in certain capacities or in certain ways of my life where it's efficient for me to be in rings and it gives me what I need, but it doesn't work for me in all aspects of life, which is, I think, why I've tried rings several times over the years for work and it hasn't worked out for me. I always thought it was because I just wasn't comfortable in rings. And now that I'm comfortable in rings in my A6 rings setup, and also Franklin Covey, if I use that for my EDC, I thought I would be comfortable in it for work. It turns out that it's not because I'm not comfortable in the rings, it's because it doesn't function for me efficiently, and it just really wasn't what I needed or what I wanted. And so I scrapped these 2 setups. Now I still have them set up, and so, they say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome, and apparently I'm insane because I have done that already twice in the period of about a month, setting up 2 different ring planners and trying them and realizing that it just doesn't work. So I'm not going to get rid of these ring covers. I may use them for something else. Obviously, I'm making inserts or attempting to make inserts, working on making inserts for my shop, printables. And so I'll need it for testing inserts to make sure that they print right and they lay right. We may want one for a home reference binder. I may use it for a creative purpose. So I won't get rid of these. I do love both of these, actually. I love that I made this one myself. I really love the pink quartz cover. They weren't very expensive. I think it's always good to have options. So I have one of each. But these aren't really going to work. I also realized, in addition to the flipping back and forth, the other thing that I don't really like about rings is that I do go back to my planners for work. I do archive them and I do pull them out quite a bit, actually, to look things up and to pull things throughout the year. And this is hard to archive on my shelf. If I set these particular binders on the shelf, then I have to get a different one for the next year to use. And that means they're just kind of sitting there. If I buy a cheaper one, which I could, and put the inserts in, they have to sit on my shelf, but they're kind of big and bulky. These are bigger and take up more space than my A5 planners and other planners that I have stored that I refer back to. And so it was also difficult to archive these from a work perspective the way that I needed to. And although I had intended to set up a reference binder for work, and I have a video on that, it's a VDS cover that I'm probably going to be destashing. I just don't have the time to be taking things out of my planner and then recopying them into a reference binder. It's just, that's not where my time can be spent at work. I'm too busy. And so that didn't work. So I actually pulled out pen and paper and started making lists and notes about what I needed for work, what I wanted out of my work planner, what I thought would work best out of my work planner. And I realized what I needed to do was I needed to just make a bullet journal for work. So back in, now I'm trying to remember, 2020 and 2021, I think it was. Several years ago, I was really struggling with my personal planner, finding a personal planner that really worked for me and fit my needs. And part of that was because it didn't exist. And part of that was because I really needed to hone in on my personal planner and what I needed out of my personal planner, what I wanted out of my personal planner. And so I did a bujo, or my version of a bujo, for a couple of years, or not a couple of years, I think it was like a year and a half. And it really helped me hone in on what I like, what I need. And it really was a big piece of how I came up with the design for plans, because I took the components of the things that I learned when I was doing a bullet journal, and then also planners that I had used over the years that I had loved and things that I didn't love, and put that all together. And that's how I made plans. And so it worked really well for me to kind of hone in on what I needed and what I wanted. And I need to do that for work as well. I also think a bullet journal is really just what I need for work. I did seriously consider using plans for work. That was actually my backup option from the beginning if I didn't like the B5 Manager. And although I think that plans would work pretty well for a lot of aspects, it's missing that piece of being able to use as many pages as I need or I want each day and each week for notes from meetings and phone calls and projects and all of the things. And so I'd have to pair it with another notebook, which is okay. and doable. But for right now, I think this is what I need. And then once I kind of hone in on my work system and kind of what I need, what I want, what works, what doesn't work, then I could probably transfer that into plans and make it work, kind of how I've done with my personal planner. But for right now, a bullet journal is what I've decided is what I need and where it's at. And so that is actually what I'm going to be doing. So this is actually, well, let me see how do I want to talk about this? I'm going to set the Scribbles notebook aside for a minute. All right, so this is actually going to be my work planner for 2025, and I'm actually going to be copying out everything that I did and all of my notes from the B5 Manager and put it into here so that it's all in one place. And I've actually started that process and it's going pretty well. So this is actually gonna be my work planner, and it's still gonna be a sort of 2-book set, only because I don't want to draw out and or add monthlies into the actual bullet journal. I'm using this campus monthly schedule notebook. So I did share this on a recent Jet Pens unboxing, but this is going to be, or is, my actual monthly planner. So I've actually already started kind of backfilling so that I have it. I have to fill out April, and I've started filling out future, but I have to continue. And then it does have notes in the back where I can make sort of collection reference type stuff. And so this is the monthly planner aspect of this. Now, I know a lot of people are very digital for work, and so they don't use a paper planner or a paper monthly planner. And we do have a digital calendar and also a digital workflow system for work. But for 2 main reasons, I really like having a monthly planner. One is that I really like the practice of writing it down. It helps things kind of stick in my brain. And so I remember things where I need to be and what I need to do if I put pen to paper. The other reason is in meetings, a lot of times dates will come up and it's just much faster and easier to pull this, open it up and say, oh, okay, yeah, that Monday is a holiday, so we don't want to schedule anything that day. We want to do it on a different day. Yes, we all have our phones with us in meetings. We work in person and have this whole time, like we're never a work from home situation. And so I go to meetings in person with a bunch of different people depending on the meeting. And so having my monthly like this is just a better fit for me. And there's a couple of different monthlies I could have used. I could have bought like a Sterling Ink monthly booklet or something like that. But I really like the campus style. I like how clean the layout is. I like the fact that there's some pages in the back that are lined for collections. I like that it's already in a clear cover and that it fits down inside the pocket, the front pocket of my Sojourner B5 cover. So this is my monthly that I will refer to in meetings and I will keep set up and all of that. And so that is the monthly piece of it. And then this is a Stalogy, and this is going to be my bullet journal. I'm probably going to cover the front of this. I need to take out the little paper that says like what this planner is. I'm probably going to cover the front of this inside the clear cover with stickers just for fun. And I'm in the process of adding stickers to the front of the Stalogy. I think I'm going to attempt to take, where are they? These stickers off, my to-do list, my spreadsheet sticker, and my email sticker down here. I think I'm going to try to take these off with some undo. And if it works, I'm actually going to put those on here because I really love those stickers for work. But this is going to be my bullet journal, and it's going to be just, you know, pen, marker, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes some sticky notes will be shoved in here, but it's going to be the place where I write everything down. I already have started kind of transferring over some of the information. I started with January, so it's taking me a bit. I think this is going to be where April starts, but I'm going to recount the pages and then I'm going to actually start now writing directly in here, and then I'll backfill as I have time. If I run out of space, I'll just add a sticky note. So if I miscount or pages take more than I expected, I will just add a sticky note. If I overcount or overshoot it, then I will just put something else on the pages that I miscounted. I can put, you know, project information or something like that. But this is what I'm going to be using. I am going to be printing out some free printables from Nada Notes on A5 paper, her 2025 bundle, to use for a project that I have that goes throughout the year, so that I have a separate sort of project planner page. I may tip it in, or I may just stick it in this pocket, or stick it into this. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do that part of it, but it's literally just going to be my to-do lists and what I have going on each day and my notes. I do have some stickers from Randy.plans coming because I want to use those to mark the days, just because it's a little bit easier for me than writing them out every day, and I just kind of like the look of that, and it's a little bit more fun. So as soon as those come, I'll be adding dates. Right now I'm just kind of leaving blank spaces, like writing in pencil, and then I'll replace them with the stickers. But I am going to be doing a bullet journal, and this is kind of my system with this. So the other thing that I've noticed is that a lot of times, especially phone calls, I make all sorts of weird scribbly notes. So while I'm on a call, I will take notes on the call, but I will also doodle because it helps me pay attention. I know that probably seems weird, but it helps me pay attention to what's going on. And I don't want to do that in kind of my actual end product, because a lot of times the notes from the call, I don't need to keep all of them. I only need to keep a piece of them. And sometimes I don't need to keep any of it. It's because somebody called, asked a question, I was helping them. I make a note because it helps me pay attention to what they're talking about. And so I know what I actually did during the day, but I don't need to retain it. And so rather than grabbing the nearest sticky note or the nearest spiral notebook, I am going to be using a Scribbles notebook. So I have actually been doing that already. So it's messy, messy, messy notes. But I'm going to be using my lined notebooks from my shop for that purpose. And I'm really excited for it. One, I really love these notebooks. This is the 52 GSM Sanzen Tomoe River paper. And this batch, or the ones that my notebooks are made out of, at least the ones that I've been using, they work really well with highlighters and markers. I don't have any like bleed through or anything like that. Even if they did, I wouldn't mind, because this is sort of scratched notes. But I love the thinness, I love the flexibility, I love the feel. And so this is just going to stay on my desk, and this is what I'm going to grab when I just need to jot down a quick note. Like, just, you know how you would grab a sticky note? And that's what this is going to be. And then my actual, meeting notes that I need to refer back to, and my plans and my to-do list and all of that, are going to be in my sort of bullet journal. And so this will get trashed at the end of the day, and this will get archived at the end of the day. I did seriously consider using this for my bullet journal instead of a Stalogy, and I did seriously considering using an A5 size instead of a B5 size. But I decided to go with the B5 size for two reasons. One is that I get to use my beautiful cover, and I don't get to use my covers in B5 size very often. So I wanted to be able to use my covers. So one reason was for that. The other reason is because the B5 is just so much bigger in space. I think I can fit the full year in the Stalogy, like my daily to-dos, my notes, and all of the stuff into a Stalogy. And I know that if I used, for example, my Scribbles notebook, not even 300 pages, and it's also smaller. So I know I would need more than one of these, and that makes archiving a little bit more difficult. So I decided to opt out of using this for my bullet journal and instead use the Stalogy. And instead of using a Stalogy in the A5 size as well, because it's smaller, I don't think everything would fit. I think this extra real estate, although not a ton, is about an inch all the way around, top and side. I think that extra space gives me enough space that I can fit the whole year into one notebook. So that is my new work planner system, and I'm actually really excited for it. It's a lot easier to just bullet journal, and I think it's going to give me everything that I need. It's nice and slim, and this is kind of everything. So messy, scribbly, kind of sticky notes, and then all my plans and all of my meeting notes and all of the things in there. And this is my new work system instead of this work system. So that is what I have moved to. Like I said, I'm going to do a separate video kind of going through the B5 Manager and just giving my thoughts about the planner itself. And then also I will do videos sharing kind of the ring setups and the 2 ring setups that I did, because the B5 Manager doesn't work for me for work doesn't mean it wouldn't work for you for work or for some other purpose. And just because the rings that I set up didn't work for me for work doesn't mean they wouldn't work for you for work or for some other purpose. So I think it'd be helpful just to show you guys the setup, because one of the ring system setups is really, really simple and the other one is a little less simple, and I thought it would be helpful to share. So I will be sharing that with you guys in a separate video. But that's my video sharing the update on my work planner system. I will be doing a Q1 full update on my entire system, but I wanted to do this one separate since I did make kind of a hefty change here and I wanted to chat with you guys about it. But that's my video. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put them down below and I will definitely get back with you. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos, and don't forget to just scribble.